Okay, we're going to get started, and people will jump on as they can. Good morning. My name is Lisa Simmons, and I am the Program Manager for the new Festivals Grant Program. I want to thank you all for tuning in today. The webinar will be approximately an hour, and we're going to be talking about using social media to promote your festivals and engage your audiences. Jen Falk, who is the Director of Marketing and Communications at Arts Boston, will be leading the webinar this afternoon, and we will also hear from two festivals who will share their social media strategies with the group, Judy Laster from the Woods Hole Film Festival and Craig Gates from the Lowell Folk Festival. Now, because we have such a large group on this webinar, I'm going to ask you to use the chat box in the lower left side of the screen for any questions that you may have, and then we can address them at the end of the webinar. So this morning, if you have questions, please feel free to ask them by typing your questions into that box, and then we'll do something like a Q&A with Jen and our other festivals at the end of the webinar, and hope to address all of your questions at that time. So the webinar is being recorded, and it will be available on the MCC website after the webinar. So if you've missed it, if you want to go back and listen to it again, it will be available to you. So now let's get started, and I'd like to turn it over to Jen.
Thanks, Lisa. It's a real delight to be here today, and I want to thank MCC for the opportunity for us to partner on the new Festivals Grant Program. And I want to thank all of you for taking an hour of your lunch to attend what I hope is an inspiring and informative session on social media. As for myself, I've been a practicing marketer for almost 20 years now, 6 of which have been with Arts Boston. My earlier career was in the for-profit space, helping to brand and promote everything from literally turkey meat to online learning software to mobile healthcare technology. In each of these cases, the question of what we were selling and to whom we were selling it to was really clear. Marketing plans were pretty straightforward, and especially as I moved into high tech, there was a lot of money to spend. Arts Boston is a nonprofit service organization representing 170 arts and cultural organizations with a mission to help support and grow the sector. We do this most notably by encouraging attendance at a wide range of live arts experiences. And oh, by the way, our target market is everyone. It's a big charge that we take on with limited marketing resources, so we heavily depend on our community of arts organizations, in-kind partnerships, and especially social media to meet our goals. So let's dig in.
See if everyone's hearing.
So I just love this graphic, or maybe I just love wine, but either way, I think it does a really great job of explaining some of the most popular social media platforms. You can see here we've got the Twitter, I am drinking #wine, Facebook, I like wine. Foursquare, this is where I go wine tasting. Instagram, here's a vintage photo of my favorite wine. YouTube, watch me taste wine. LinkedIn, I'm a professional wine drinker. Pinterest, here's a pinboard of wine pairing recipes. Last.fm, now listening to red wine. Google+, this is a hangout for Google employees who drink wine. And Tumblr, my wine drinking experiences in more detail. We don't have time today to get into all 10 of these social media platforms, but I will be covering the top 3 in greater detail. And just a reminder, I just wanted to also say to use the chat box in the lower left-hand corner for any questions so we can address them at the end. So before we dig into the how of social media in the top 3 platforms, I just wanted to cover a few bullet points about why social in the first place. I think what's really important to note here is that we want to use social media platforms as a marketing tool because we want to meet audiences where they are. I found a really interesting stat recently that the average person in the U.S. checks their Facebook, Twitter, and other social media accounts a staggering 17 times per day. So basically once every waking hour. So people are on these platforms and we want to get our messages out in front of them. Social media platforms also give us the opportunity to share content collectively. And this, what I mean by this is not just about putting content on our own social media channels, but it allows us as a collective festival group to actually promote each other's events after ours is over. Social gives us the ability to reach exactly who you want, when you want them, affordably. You can also see results in as little as 1 hour per day. So you don't really need a full-time social media manager, full-time every day doing social media. You can actually cherry pick what you want to do. We'll get into a little bit more about how to prioritize social media later. But you can really just see if you have a dedicated person that is spending as little as 1 hour per day, you can really see some great results for your festival. Not that I'm sounding like Jillian Michaels or anything for a fitness guru. And then you can also, building followers empowers you to be your own media channel for future events. And so we all know that media is very fragmented, and social media allows you to build fan bases across platforms and actually promote to them later on for your future events. In terms of the top platforms, Facebook really dominates. I found this great graphic that really shows it's a breakdown of the percentage of time on desktop and smartphone that people spend on the 5 social media platforms, and you can see that they're spending over 50% of their time on their computer on Facebook. The second is about 13% is followed on Instagram, and then Twitter follows behind with about 7.4%. And this is a recent trend. I think I was personally doing some research on this presentation, surprised to see Instagram so much higher than Twitter, but it's really made significant inroads, especially in the last year. So now we'll dig into those top 3 platforms in a little bit more detail. Starting off with Facebook. Just to give you a basic overview, I said that we at Arts Boston are really dependent on our Facebook platform to help promote all of the things that are going on in arts and culture. This is a quick summary of our page. We have a committed content strategy where we focus on news, typically about the Boston region, so it doesn't have to be arts and cultural news, but we like to showcase the region that we serve. We do focus on local, national, and international arts and cultural news of interest. We also talk a lot about specific arts events. We'll be talking about your individual festivals throughout this promotion, and we also feature our Bostic Steals as content. We have about 30,000 fans. We started the Facebook group, our Facebook page, in 2009, and we've seen tremendous growth in the last year of 41% of those fans. We do have a devoted person that actually does work on social media about 40% of the time, and posts up to 4 times per weekday on Facebook on behalf of Arts Boston and our member organizations. The payoff that we see is that Facebook is consistently a top 3 referrer of web traffic to our calendar. I have a few examples of things that have been working well for us in Facebook. Our top performing posts in the last 6 months, this is one example of a light festival that happened in Copley Square over the holidays. I think it was posted sometime, I think it was December 17th, so it was the opening night. It was a Thursday of, I don't know if you guys saw, but the big light projection that was on the Boston Public Library. This was, I'd play it for you if I had the live video streaming here, but it was essentially a simple 10-second video that we took on an iPhone while we're staying there on the first showing of it's basically the press conference for the light show. We did a simple, one person took the 10-second video, like I said, on the iPhone, and we posted it with some great copy and some detail about what was happening in Copley Square, and this reached 78,000 people. And I just also show here kind of how Facebook is showing performance. You can see that there's the unique viewers broken down in video views and 10-second views. This is kind of showing you kind of the analytics that are available through Facebook, but what the 78,000 person reach is all through shares and comments. I make this example simply to state that you don't need high-tech video equipment, and that video is a very powerful way to engage your audience on Facebook. The second example I'll share is actually one. It falls within the international news category of arts and culture. I think it's just great to note here that this is an example of actually something that's happening in Portugal, but it's Grandma Graffiti Gangs. So it has a great headline. It's a link to a real live news article, and it actually, you can see here that over 31,000 people saw this post. Again, this is not boosted by any paid promotion. This is all organic. This screenshot also shows you some of the newer, as many of you probably are familiar with, Facebook introduced their new reactions. So you can not just like things, you can actually feel things about them and show emoticons, and so they are tracking that. You can see that we have 16 people loved it, 1 laughed, 1 went wow. So this is all new data that Facebook is collecting, and those do matter in terms of how many people see your posts. In terms of just additional takeaways about Facebook, again, I'd love to hear from all of you guys in the end in terms of your questions and even comments. I'm sure you have other learnings, but just a few things to take away from Facebook. Facebook is a visual platform. All social media is visual, but really Facebook highly values great imagery and also video now in the optimal sizes. Post engagement is key to be seen by more people. A good rule of thumb is to have 80% of your posts on Facebook be, like I said, news, relevant information, just great, the grandma, graffiti gangs, things that people really are relevant to your brand and your festival, but aren't necessarily selling something. They're not every call to action on a Facebook post has to be buy tickets or come to the event. So we really like to follow an 80-20 rule when we're thinking that, so that you can really engage your folks. What Facebook values in terms of its algorithm, in terms of not everyone sees posts. You can see, I guess on the 4th bullet down there, you see only about 6% can see an organic post, but how you boost that number is by increasing the amount of shares, and then you can see the priority of shares, comments, reactions, and likes. That's how Facebook actually prioritizes if it wants to show it to more people. So the more shares you get, the more people will see it, and those are in order of priority. So of course, likes, reactions, comments, and shares are better than nothing, but it's interesting to note that likes are the least valued compared to shares, comments, and now reactions. I want to also mention Facebook events. We at Arts Boston don't typically do this simply because we have thousands of events that we're marketing each month, but I want to remind for each of you individual festivals to create a separate event within Facebook events for your festival. Facebook's done a really great job of building notifications within event listings. So now when your friends are either attending an event or interested in attending an event, Facebook prompts you to also attend or be interested in it. So it does value that. So I would highly recommend building a separate event within Facebook for your festival. It's good to note being human, posting in the first person, and tag organizations and people you're talking about to encourage them to engage. And then I also just mentioned that organic reach is now about 6%. So if you do have a marketing budget, consider boosting posts with money and targeted lists. And we can talk a little bit more about that in the Q&A, but it's really affordable to, for as little as $50, you can get some pretty good results. Moving on to Instagram. Instagram, like I said, has really shown real dominance in the last 12 months, and that's essentially when we started doing it as well. We have about 2,600 fans right now on Instagram, and we just started it probably mid-2014. Our content strategy on Instagram is really about photography, and video is really prominent on Instagram now as well, but our content strategy is not necessarily news and events or sharing links. It's because you can't link anywhere from Instagram. It's really about the photography. So we're really focusing on Greater Boston, our local service area of Greater Boston, and we also do a lot of we use Instagram for photos of staff and office folly and booth patrons. We try to have fun with this when we're out, papering at events or have a table at special events like your festivals. We post a lot on Instagram just to have some fun with it. We post up to about 2 times per weekday on Instagram, and it does not directly refer traffic to our calendar, but it does build brand loyalty, and it enables staff members, and we actually also enable our staff members while they're at events to post photos on the account. Contests are great to run on most social media platforms. I think Facebook and Instagram specifically are really powerful tools. I wanted to just share this example of a very successful contest that we played a role with but didn't actually run. This is a contest from the Museum of Fine Arts. It's happening, I think it's still happening, right? It's still going on now. And this post is about the fruit tree exhibit at the MFA, and they have a sculpture in Faneuil Hall Marketplace that you can go and take your picture with it and tag it. And if you hashtag MFA Mega, you get free admission to the museum. So far, the contest has already seen 986 posts. And you can see the 2 screenshots, one in Instagram with the hashtag. You can see all the different photos, and also our post at Arts Boston where we tagged ourselves being in front of the tree at Faneuil Hall and using the hashtag. So this is a great example of how contests can really work with an Instagram using a dedicated marketing hashtag, and that will help drive user-generated content and help people really engage with your brand, and people will follow the hashtag, and you'll see increased followers in that way. Some key tips to take away from Instagram. Again, visual platform. I can't engage that enough. It's probably the most visual of all the social media platforms. Hashtags reign supreme in Instagram. We all know hashtags from Twitter. I'll talk about that in a minute. But hashtags on Instagram are the only way that people actually find you if they're not already following you. And it's okay to use lots of hashtags in Instagram. And I would encourage you to use as many as possible. On the bottom of this screen, you can see a few that we use, and we're specifically Boston, but I wanted to point out the hashtag VisitMA and hashtag, of course, Mass Festivals for our program that you guys should tag all of your Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook posts to so that people can find you. Good to note that 90% of Instagram users are under the age of 35, so this is a great platform if you're trying to reach a younger demographic. Also note that Facebook is now the largest demographic on Facebook is now actually the baby boomer generation, so it's good to know there's kind of a difference between the two. Make sure you tag people on Instagram and organizations in your photos and posts so they receive notifications within Instagram. This is another way for them to like your posts and to retag you. And grow your following by following other hashtags. Grow your following by following others. So if you see that people are tagging you and your festival in an Instagram post, click around, spend a little time clicking around on the hashtags that they use, and then follow those people so that they can then follow you back. And Instagram, as we all know, is about the filters. They rock in terms of how many filters you can apply, and you can buy other kinds of filters. So just kind of a fun tip is to establish a brand aesthetic. So if you always want to post the same types of photos and using the same types of filters, it does create a brand consistency that can actually help people to recognize who you are. And also a fun fact, Valencia is actually the most popular filter in Instagram. Following up with Twitter, we've been doing Twitter since 2009 as well. We launched Facebook and Twitter around the same time. What's interesting about Twitter for us is that we've seen a lower growth in actual following of Twitter. We have a 13% growth in the fans in the past year as opposed to 41% in Facebook. But what's really important about Twitter, again, are those hashtags. And I think the thing that makes Twitter stand apart is it's not necessarily about pushing marketing messaging or event information out on Twitter. It's really about joining a conversation. And so Twitter, more than any other social media platform, it's really important to engage with your followers. Joining conversations at events, using trending hashtags when you can, and really responding to people. Twitter, more than any other social media platform, is also a moment in time. And so when you think about what's happening right now or events that you're in during your festivals, have people live tweeting that will help trend and it will help get more followers and get people down to your event. We currently post almost, I had to say, at max, probably 20 times a weekday, which sounds like a lot, but Twitter makes it so easy to just retweet and like things. It is one of the platforms that you don't have to worry about overdoing it in terms of content because it's so moment in time. So tweet away. You can do 100 times a day if you want to. It's actually welcomed on Twitter. We also encourage our staff to post and retweet. We use our executive director. Our executive director has her own personal handle. Our staff has their own personal handles, and we retweet those as well. So don't be afraid to use your other staff and volunteers to help spread the word. Twitter has a real strength in creating, as I said, those dialogues and using hashtags to create a dialogue. This is an example of a hashtag that we use, a marketing hashtag called #BostonHoliday. And it was a couple years ago. As you can see, Mayor Tom Menino is on here. But this is a great example of engaging across all of your constituents, a similar conversation on Twitter. So technically, we don't have to follow all of these people, but we do, but we don't have to follow them all. We just have to follow the hashtag. And I think this is a great example because we're asking all of you to tag your posts as mass festivals, and we love to be able to create a screenshot like this of all the different festivals retweeting each other and using the singular branded hashtag. It creates a larger conversation than you can just have alone. So you can see here with this is in support of our Mayor's Holiday program. We had everyone from the Mass Cultural Council to the mayor tweeting to general people on the street who had seen some pop-up performances that we were conducting. We had the T was tweeting about us. We had the Greater Boston Visitor and Convention Bureau tweeting, and one of our major financial sponsors, Mass Mutual at the time. So, and arts organizations, so you see the Back Bay Ringers. This is just a really great example of the collective conversation that you can start on Twitter. So some takeaway tips for Twitter generally. Again, it's a conversation platform. There is a tab on the bottom. You'll see if you look on your phone in Twitter, it will have a notifications tab. Click on that because that's going to show up when people retweet you, when they like you, when they tag you and things. If you want to use the Twitter platform, I'd highly encourage you guys to spend half your time posting content and the other half of the time responding to content because it is a conversation piece. Twitter now previews images in the timeline. This is kind of a new development. Twitter used to just be about the 148 characters, and now if you actually add an image to your post, it will show up in the timeline. So we're seeing some increased engagement around photos. So don't be afraid to tag images or add images to your posts. Twitter's real time, we mentioned this, don't wait to post. It's a great opportunity to seize things that are related to your festival or as you're building up, doing some live tweeting. One great idea would be to actually do live tweeting during the build out of your festival. If you're actually setting up and doing some stage, do some behind the scenes setup and information, that might be a great time a few days leading up to it to really build momentum. Again, hashtags. Twitter really invented the use of hashtags, and they are still critically important to Twitter. What's different from Twitter and Instagram is that Twitter, we actually see that you should use them very sparingly. Some recommendations from other sources say that you should use 1 or 2 maximum hashtags on a tweet because you'll get higher engagement with fewer hashtags. It also frees up some of that limited character count so that you can post more about what you want to say. Trends on the left-hand side, if you open Twitter, you'll see that they'll show you what's trending. We recommend being responsive in Twitter and using trending hashtags if they are relevant to you. If you are doing a food festival and there's a trend of some popular tomato dish, for example, and everyone's talking about this tomato dish, then absolutely use that hashtag. But if it's not relevant to you, don't use it, because trends really only last about an hour, is what the research shows, which if you can jump on a trend and it's relevant to you, jump on it. But it's not going to be something that you can use for days and days and days. And my favorite thing about Twitter is to build lists. And I would highly recommend spending some time doing this, especially if you have multiple constituents. If you only have a couple hundred followers, you may not want to do this. But if you look at your general timeline, I mean, we have 14,000 followers. If we look at our timeline, there's no way we're going to see everybody's tweet. No way we're going to catch everything. So we actually at Arts Boston develop lists, and I have a small screenshot there. It's actually under that kind of work tool next to the profile heads. There's a little circle, and you click on that, and it says View Lists. If you go to View Lists, it will allow you to build lists. And so what we've done is we have our member organizations as a separate list. We have the media as a separate list. We have cultural influencers, so people who are just out and about always talking about the arts. They could be individuals, they could be government officials, but we actually separate out our followers by important people so that we can just look at those folks every once in a while. It really helps kind of whittle down, like, what is the media talking about right now? What are like cultural influencers in the community talking about? That way you don't have to go through your whole timeline and try to weed them out and remember each one. So time spent organizing lists is really time well spent. It'll really help with content, understanding what the conversations are being had. So to go back to the wine example, because we all know I love wine, those are just the top 3. As you can see, there are many, many others, and you guys probably all have your own experience with other different platforms. I think the one takeaway that I will leave you with in terms of all 10 of these is you don't have to do all 10. You don't even have to do the 3 that we talked about today. What's more important is that you choose one and do it well. So it's much better to do one really well than 3 or 4 or 5 not well. It's about consistency. It's about paying attention. It's about adding content on a regular basis. And so I just want to alleviate the pressure that, like, oh my God, I have to do all 10 of these and there's no way I can do it. We recommend just doing one. If you start with Facebook or you want to reach, maybe your festival is specifically geared to under 35s and you just want to do Instagram, just do one really well instead of all of them. Another tip too is you may want to log into each of these things and create your festival's profile. So say you're not going to do Twitter, but log into Twitter and create a festival Twitter page, and in the description say, find us on Facebook. So if people are using Twitter and they want to try to find you, they can at least find you and you can redirect them to the platform that you're actually using. So some high-level takeaways from today. Again, I think I've said this 4 times, but I can't stress it enough that social media is a visual platform. We're going to be sending out some information after this webinar. We'll send you what the optimal sizes are for each of the main social media platforms. Please note they do change every once in a while, but we do have a list of how big your images should be, and it's best to use the sizes they're recommending for maximum engagement. We also encourage you to have a content strategy and schedule in advance. The good news there's some tools out there like Hootsuite and others and Facebook now allows you to pre-schedule posts. So you can think about it when you have time and actually schedule your posts so you have that consistency, but you don't actually have to be at the computer every single minute to post them. But we do recommend that you leave about 50% of your posts flexible to be responding or reacting to things as they come up. Always link to your own website whenever possible. I know with news articles it's okay. I mean, it's okay to link to the actual content itself, but if you have a website, making sure that your content, you're using your social media platforms to drive traffic to your website, because that's where people are going to find out more information about your festival. It's where they're going to see your photo galleries. It's where they're going to see kind of parking information. So you want to always be directing people to your website whenever possible. And you don't have to, like I said before, you don't have to post on every platform. More important to be consistent on one than inconsistent on many. And just a note, as we all know, social media algorithms and the technology itself are always changing. I list a few resources here that are just high-tech and social media resources that have really great blog posts where I look to see what's new and changing. HubSpot, Capacity Interactive, TechCrunch, and then all of you. This is a resource of 125 plus festivals, and you guys all have your own experiences. So share with each other, and I'm looking forward to learning from you as well. So with that said, on the notion of sharing together and learning from others, I wanted to turn it over to Judy Laster from the Woods Hole Film Festival to talk a little bit about her experience.
Judy, are you there?
Yeah, can everyone hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, great. Well, thank you for having me and asking me to sort of share our experiences. So I'm the founder and director of the Woods Hole Film Festival. We're 25 years old this summer, meaning that we were around before social media. And so it's been an interesting thing to watch the evolution of how we reach our audience and how we engage new audiences going from the traditional media sector to the social media world. I guess the first thing that I would say is, us, social media is certainly part of how we reach our audience, but it certainly isn't the entire way we reach our audience. Each year we do surveys and demographic studies to try and know who our audience is. And I would say about the average age of our audience is 45 and older. So in terms of a social media strategy, we really have to think about that. Who's going to be reading the social media? What are they going to get from our social media? And how do they generally engage? And so because of that, and we don't have a specific dedicated social media person for the Woods Hole Film Festival, we do have a communications director, but she does a lot of other things as well. We really try and focus where we think the engagement is the best. Am I still on?
Yep.
Hello? Yeah, sorry.
Yes, you are. People are having a little hard time hearing you, so I'm trying to. Can you hear me, Judy?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, that's much better.
That's much better.
Okay. So now let's see if people can hear you. So go back to, start speaking again.
So.
Yep, that's better.
Yeah, that's better?
Yep.
Okay. So one of the things, because we are a film festival, we really use our filmmakers to evangelize on our behalf. And so we're able to really galvanize the filmmaking community, who is all over social media and provides great image and content, as a way to try and leverage the resources that we have exponentially to reach out to their communities as well. And in fact, part of the requirement that we have in our contract with the filmmakers is that they do engage in social media on behalf of their film screening and on behalf of the festival. So that is one thing that I will say is, if you're going to use the people who you're presenting at your festival as social media evangelizers, one thing to think about is how you want them to engage, with whom you want them to engage, and when you want them to engage. So it helps to create a social media engagement strategy for the people who are going to be doing social media on your behalf. So for our purposes, we try and really engage even though our festival is an 8-day festival in the summer, we have events happening year-round, and we try and engage year-round with our audience and to grow our audience. So we engage on a year-round basis, mostly by publicizing events that we're hosting, but also, I think as was said previously, by trying to post information about other events that are happening with similar organizations and other things that are happening in the news that are relevant to the world of filmmaking. And so we find that a lot of the best engagement comes for us when we post news items around filmmaking. People love to read that. They may not have the opportunity to do that otherwise. And so posting information, and we use Facebook and Twitter primarily. I would say Facebook more than anything. We do have an Instagram feed. It has not necessarily been kept up over time, but we intend to get back to it. But Facebook is our primary tool. And so we try and be as informational as possible. We also don't post too much because we also find that if for our audience, if we post too much, they're not as engaged. And so we really try and be selective about the content that we post in the time of year that's not during the festival. So the other thing that we do is we have events. So we create events all the time. And I think also, as was said previously, creating events means that you can reach out to people who might not necessarily be part of your festival community, especially because when we do events, we generally do paid advertising with them. So we can reach out to maybe, tens of thousands of people who may not necessarily be our film festival core audience and grow our audience year-round through paid events. It really is good money, and I think for us it's well spent. We have noticed that through paid events, we definitely draw people into our events who have either never come to the festival or never heard of the festival, and who travel sometimes as much, and this is a big deal on Cape Cod, is an hour and a half away to come to something that we do in the winter. So it's very successful for us. In the couple of months leading up to the festival, we try and increase the number of posts that we do, and we try and increase the kind of information that we provide in those posts, but we also try and make them posts that are still engaging and visually attractive. And visual attractiveness, I think, is something that really does engage our audience. Because we also have a lot of filmmakers, we do have a lot of video content, and incorporating the trailers into the Facebook page, the trailers of the films that they're going to be able to see, has increased our ticket sales exponentially. So that's sort of what we do. How we do it is probably not as well as it should be done in terms of the consistency, but we try and do a lot with a very sort of smallish staff. And, I think the most important thing is who your audience is. You've probably done demographic research to know where you want to grow, and really try and focus on which objective you're trying to achieve at which time. I think that makes a lot of sense. So that's what I have to say.
Thank you, Judy. That was really helpful. And now I'd like to turn it over to Greg Gates at the Lowell Folk Festival.
Hi, Lisa.
Greg, are you there?
Hi, Lisa. Can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you.
Okay. Thank you, Lisa. Thank you, Jen. And thank you, Judy. Very, very informative up to this point. Great job. The Lowell Folk Festival, a little bit different than the Woods Hole Folk Festival in that we're a free event. We put music on 5 stages in downtown Lowell for free admission. That means people can come for free and spend all day and all night here for 3 days and enjoy all the music on all 5 stages. Now, that doesn't mean that the festival is free to put on. It's not. It costs us close to $1 million to put it on. So you can see we don't have a huge marketing budget because the majority of the monies that we raise go towards paying all the performers, their airfare, their hotel, their lodging, their meals, plus all the city services, the police, fire, EMPs, building of the stages, and on and on. So we don't have a very big marketing budget at all since we have no admission fee. So we have to get the best bang for our buck. And we found far and away the best way to do that is through a lot of what Jen has been talking about with the social media. I'm lucky in the fact that I have 5 other partnering organizations that work with me on this event, and they have some great outreach in terms of their Facebook pages as well as all of their email lists and that sort of thing. My partners are the City of Lowell, and I work with their cultural organization. The Chamber of Commerce here in Lowell, their president is on our marketing committee. The Greater Merrimack Valley Convention Visitors Bureau, who has a great interest in getting people into the hotels in the Merrimack Valley area throughout the year, never mind for the Folk Festival, but Folk Festival tends to fill up a time during the summer when the hotels are a little slower. So, and then the National Council for Traditional Arts in Washington, D.C., as well as the National Park Service here in Lowell. So we utilize all of those 6 different assets, partners, to help us push the whole social media. If you go to our Lowell Folk Festival Facebook page, you can see some of the ways that we do it. Just like Judy, we're offering music instead of films. So we've been announcing our upcoming performers for this 30th anniversary year. We try to do a couple a week, and we tie the Facebook post. We incorporate their YouTube video so that people can click on the video and see the actual performer or one of the 20-some-odd performers that will be here over the course of the weekend. So we do that quite a bit through Facebook. Just alone, we have on our home Facebook page, we have just a little under 10,000 likes. But this week alone, with the various things that we've sent out, we reached about 5,000 people just in the last couple of days, which is good. We also do a lot of Twitter, especially during the festival itself. A couple of years ago, we were trending because we have social media ambassadors that do nothing but just send out tweets and pictures and that sort of thing throughout the course of the weekend. Now, everybody that's coming is already here, but it still brings excitement to people that aren't here, and they can follow along. But again, we found that Facebook, Twitter, using our partners, various websites to help support the event, as well as our own website, is basically the best way of getting word out for the festival, especially when you don't have a lot of marketing money to spend.
Right.
And that's about it.
Excellent. For both Judy and Craig, this is Lisa. I really appreciate you sharing all that information with the people that are on the line with us. And I think that, I don't know how many of you, Judy had mentioned about doing surveys and demographics, finding out your demographic. I think that is a really important point, so that you can figure out who is coming to your festival, who you're talking to, and that will really make a difference in the type of social media platform you're going to be using. And what Craig mentioned about sort of using social media while people are actually at the festival and how to get people excited about things that are going on. Even if it's a 5-hour festival, there are ways that you can still boost engagement while people are there and then getting people there. So I want to thank you both for offering that information. And now we're going to move on to Q&A. So if you have any questions, please be sure to put them in the chat box. And I'm going to go to the questions that people had, some people had put in there. If you have more, please do that. I also have a couple of them, and we're going to do it sort of like a Q&A with Jen, and her colleague Chad is also in the room with us, who may be responding to some of those. And if you have a question for Judy and Craig, they are still on the line as well. So one of the questions was, Jen, do the different social media sites vary for popularity depending upon age group, or is Facebook top one across all age groups?
Yeah, I think they do. I think Facebook is the most popular across most age groups. I would say that it does skew towards baby boomers and is getting, so that's a really great platform for an older demographic like Judy was talking about for the Woods Hole Film Festival. Instagram, as I mentioned, really reaches a demographic of under 35. And I'd say the Snapchats of the world are the folks that are under 25. So that's really kind of what we know about age, so depending on your target demographic.
Great. Chad, did you want to add anything to that?
No, I would just agree with what Jen said, that Facebook, while a lot of people are still using it throughout, like intergenerational, it is trending towards an older generation. And so for a lot of festivals and a lot of art goers, that's usually the typical market that you're actually reaching anyway, is that sort of 35 up into the late, early 60s crowd. So it's one of the reasons why it's such a popular way to actually market and get your message out there. But if your festival does skew a little bit younger, research what social media platforms that that demographic's using, and then go on there. Go where your audience is. So if you are focused on that sort of, if you're like a skating festival, like a skateboard festival, and you know that your demographic is younger, go on Snapchat and explore it. So just know where your audience is and reach them that way.
Okay, I have another question. So we're talking about Facebook, and we were talking about Facebook events. Now, if you create these Facebook events, or you have or if you've decided to use a Facebook page instead of a website to promote your festival, how important is that in reaching people? I mean, if I'm not on Facebook, am I going to be able to see the event that you've created for your festival?
Yeah, I mean, you are limiting yourself to the Facebook universe, which is a lot of people, but you have to have a Facebook account to be able to see Facebook events. I think there are some tools out there to create very inexpensive websites. We would always encourage you to have even just a page about your festival online and not exclusively depend on Facebook to be your branded page, simply because you're limiting your audience, and you're also limiting your ability to show up in search results. So if someone is searching for things to do in Lowell during the festival, you want to make sure you have a website, which I know you do, up there so that it actually comes up in organic search results.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Now another.
No,
go ahead.
I was just going to say, Jen, that's a great point. People go. I mean, they just pull up Lowell Folk Festival, and a website comes up, and we get a lot of responses through the website as well as people calling, and it's all generations. I mean, it's teenagers looking to have their band play here, to folks wondering about handicap accessibility, all that sort of thing, just based on them going to our website. So that's a good point.
Hey, Lisa?
Yeah?
Can you hear me? Yeah, so I
Yes.
just also want to say we integrate our Facebook page into our web page, into our website. So if anybody goes to our website, you can see our Facebook feed. And that's a really good and powerful tool.
That's a great point. Okay, so another question which has to do with Facebook was, how do you boost shares, or how do you boost your events and all that?
Do you want to speak to that a bit?
Sure. So there's no way specifically to boost shares. I think that the point that Jen was trying to make was that you want to make sure that the content that you're sharing on Facebook or on Twitter, or a little less so on Instagram because you have to actually download a secondary app to actually share content from other sources. But particularly on Facebook and Twitter, you want to make sure that the content that you're sharing is shareable. So it's something that's going to catch people's eye. It's something that people are going to want to have a conversation about, and they're going to want to share with their friends and their family and their followers on their social media platforms. So that's how you do it. So like, for instance, the graffiti grandmas was just a fun, kind of buzzy, exciting sort of topic, and so that's why we shared it with our followers, and then they wanted to share it with their own followers and their own friends on their Facebook page. So that's what we were talking about, that you can pay, obviously, to promote a post. You can boost it by $10, $5, $50, depends on what your budget is, and that in some cases can help generate shares. If people see it, they might be more willing to share it, but it's really going to depend on what that content is. So usually if you're spending money to boost a post, what you're going to get is more visibility, so you'll get more impressions, you'll get more likes potentially, but it doesn't necessarily relate directly to shares. That's really going to rely on what that content is and how interesting and relevant it is to your audience.
And Facebook does make it pretty easy to boost posts. You just post, and it will actually give you a big button that says boost post, and you can walk through the steps to do so specifically. They make it really easy for you to spend money with them, of course. But what's most powerful about the boosting is that you can actually spend very little money and be very targeted about, you can target your own followers, your friends of followers, specific demographics. If you are a film festival, you can actually Facebook's analytics really help you see other people who like other film festivals. So you can get really granular and have really narrow down the audience that you're boosting that post to, and that might be really good, an opportunity to spend a little money there.
And I do think it's important because it's an affordable option than having to buy ads in a newspaper, on television, on radio, that in this social world there is the possibility of having a less expensive option in order to get your festival out there.
And Facebook will also actually, it's a new feature because now they're encouraging people to spend money. They're actually telling you what posts to actually promote. So if you have a post that's engaging, maybe, depending on what your average, let's say you get 10 likes on a post and you're getting one that has 20, Facebook will say, double this by putting $5 into this post, and you can double the exposure that this post is getting. So it will actually even give you some suggestions here and there about what is potentially engaging content that you might want to help share by boosting it with money.
Now, another question that somebody had about Facebook was that apparently Facebook has changed the maximum event length from, I guess, whatever you had to now 2 weeks, so that you can only post for those 2 weeks. Is there a way to get around that? Is this something, why is this happening?
I would say your best bet to do would be to actually, if you're an 8-week series, instead of actually creating an event for the entire 8 weeks, actually create events for each specific series of each specific event. So that way you can, one, hit that same people that are saying they're going to go to that event later on. If you want to, through marketing, you can pay to remarket that ad or those promotions to those people that are already part of that event. And that way you're messaging, because not everyone's going to want to know about every single performance that's happening during your series. They might want to know about something specific. So it kind of allows you to get a better sense of who's coming and how to reach them again later on. So that would be the best way to do it versus doing a full 8 weeks, which is very generalized, and you don't necessarily know exactly why they're coming or why they're interested in what you're doing.
And you could also create events by week, if that makes sense, in addition to by series. Creating them by week actually gives a sense of urgency. So if you are a month-long festival, then people are like, oh, okay, I can go anytime during the month. But if you create new events for each week and show the new content that's coming in or the new performances that are coming in, then people might be interested in that event and or go to that event, and then it shows up in other in their friends' feeds.
Excellent. So this is go ahead.
One quick thing is that, the other thing is you can really, if you are doing any other kind of paid advertising, leverage your social by putting it in the contract with the other paid advertising that they need to also, do your social media shares and whatevers you do. So get them to work for you too.
So adding posts to your media plans from, if you're buying a newspaper ad, for example, have that newspaper do social media posts about you?
Yeah,
as part of your yeah.
On their social media.
Yep. Great idea.
And this is an interesting question. So, Jen, you were talking about using employees that are a good resource for retweeting and posting things that are going on. And so this is, oftentimes the festivals are volunteer-driven, maybe parts of organizations. But how do you separate sort of your personal social world and your work social world? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think what's most important in terms of the more folks that are tweeting about you or posting about you, the better, and using the hashtag. And so I think that it's important, and Judy alluded to this in terms of the Woods Hole Film Festival, but really deciding up front what your content strategy is going to be. How many people do you want to actually have responsibility for your branded handle, and when do you want them to engage during certain points? And just have some high-level strategy points of this is the type of content we're sharing, this is when we want you to share it. And then have a meeting with everybody and get them all on the same page. I think we should not be afraid to empower other people to post on behalf of our brand. I think that perfection isn't always it's as a marketer, it's always, and you're going to do a print ad and all of the legacy of marketing. You want it proofread. You don't want typos, of course, but you can actually go into all these platforms now and edit posts. But what's most important is that you enable a team that you trust to actually post on your behalf. And then you could also have that conversation of them posting on their personal pages, and leave it up to them. We tend to leave it up to our staff. It's at their discretion if they would want to post on their personal pages about what we're talking about in marketing, but that's always, especially in Facebook, individual pages get seen much higher to friends than pages do. So if you can get folks to even be sharing your festival's content, that actually will help your engagement.
Great. And just one last question or tip that I'd love for you to share, both you and Chad and Craig and Judy, if you have. I'm trying to figure out what's the best platform to use during an event. What's the best platform to use to get people to my festival? And what's the best platform that will engage people?
That's a hard one, Lisa.
Sorry.
Twitter's live is a live feed, and I think that is a great platform to use during your event, as is Instagram. As you may, if you're familiar with Facebook and use it personally, you'll see that there is often a delay in terms of what you see, unless you have your settings set to kind of see most recent. But Facebook defaults to kind of what's most relevant, and it really depends on their algorithm to feed you what they think you want to see. So in the moment in time, Facebook isn't always the best. Is not always the best platform. So I would really think about Instagram and Twitter as kind of in that moment. But Facebook really is a powerful tool to help get people to your event, again, using their event tools, using their getting people to reshare it and drive interest around that.
Excellent. Craig, did you have something you wanted to add to that?
No, I agree 100%. I think there's three different answers to the same question, but Twitter and Instagram definitely during the event, because it is live and people do follow it constantly. Facebook and your own website to get people there. And then as far as the execution, I guess it's just, all the social medias combined, or as many as you can use.
Excellent.
Well, thank you, everybody, again, for spending your lunch hour with us. We are going to be sending an email to all the registered attendees of the webinar with a link to the archived recording. We're also putting together a social media toolkit for you, which will include some sample tweets and posts about the festival's program, and some graphics in optimized sizes for Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram for you to use as you will. just to want to re-encourage everybody to think about your own festival, of course, and driving attendance. And then once that's over, really using that Mass Festivals hashtag to drive traffic to the landing page where you guys are all featured to get people to go to multiple events this summer. I also want to just put a plug in for the next webinar. It's April 26th. Our Deputy Director at Arts Boston, John Beck, will be leading a great conversation about best practices in data collection for festivals and free events. So make a note to that and make sure you register if you haven't already.
Oh, we have one quick question that just came in. Can you explain the difference between using hashtags and using mentions on Facebook?
Yeah, so the difference between a hashtag is actually, what it really actually does, it's code. And so when you're actually using a hashtag, when you put that hashtag symbol and then in front of characters, what it does is actually creates a code to allow things to be searchable. When you're mentioning somebody, that's actually when you're using a Twitter handle or an Instagram handle, or in some cases on Facebook, a page, and you're notifying that page directly. So, for instance, if you want to be a part of a conversation or a part of sort of a searchable moment, you would use the hashtag Mass Festivals. If someone's coming into the state and they want to know what's going on, they'll use the hashtag Mass Festivals. But if they want to directly comment or ask a question to the Massachusetts Cultural Council, they would use the handle at Mass Culture. Or Mass Cultural, I believe is what you're telling. So that's how you would do it. So those are the two differences. You can use both of them in a tweet or in an Instagram post. That's what we do sometimes. It just depends on what's the most relevant. If you're being part of a larger conversation, or if you're wanting to actually get the direct attention of an organization or a particular individual or a social media influencer.
Excellent.
Well, thank you, everyone. I think this is the end of, we're at time here, 1:05. I thank you for running on time and for joining us today.
Thank you, Lisa.
Bye.
Thank you, everyone. And this will be on the Mass Cultural Council website, and we'll send out an email letting you know when it's up so that you can either share it or review it. And if you have any questions, my email will be attached to that. So you can certainly email me, and we'll be more than happy to connect with you on any other questions you may have regarding social media.